going to be our last class. Okay, so we took it from a 12-week course and we're turning it to a 10-week course for two reasons. Because the week after that is district council. And so originally I was going to miss district council to be here, but that Thursday I need to be there. And so anyway, we're going to go ahead and cancel LTC for that week, and rather than push it out another 2 weeks, we're just going to go ahead and do it at 10 weeks. And so we're in good shape as far as all of that goes. This week we're going to be talking about safety procedures within the small group and starting to set up the small group, and then next week we'll finish that conversation. So next week I'll give you also kind of a review of the things to study and to prepare for, because you'll have 2 weeks. Next week will be the last class, and then 2 weeks from that will be the final. And so don't get all crazy scared and all that. It's not going to be like rocket science. It's going to be stuff that we've talked about and gone over and that you've underlined and that kind of stuff. So it's not going to be... Huh?
I have to open book tests.
Open book test? You can open the test book. And so anyway, that's kind of the timeline. And then the week after that, we'll do the exit interviews just to see if anybody has any questions. Make sure, we'll give you a time, one-on-one time to let us know if you have any concerns about anything that we've gone over during this period of time that maybe you don't agree with or whatever, or just to make sure we're ready to be a small group leader. So the first week in July is our small group leader retreat. So have that on your calendar. We would love for everybody to go. We're going to pay your room and board. If for some reason you can't, then we understand. But it's a good opportunity for us to get away as small group leaders and just spend some time together. And it's going to be during family camp.
Is that during the end of June, beginning of July, or is it in?
Yeah, it's the week before the 4th of July, so I think it is end of June, 1st of July.
Yeah, it's the first Wednesday in July.
Yeah, I think it's like Monday. It starts Monday and ends, Thursday night.
So I mean, on all that week.
Yes.
So everybody's like, there's service on Thursday night, right? Or does it end? Is it Wednesday night? People leave on Thursday.
People leave. It's the first night. It's like 3 nights, and then Thursday morning they usually have a service, I think, and then that afternoon. I think that's right. I haven't been in a while.
So we'll find out the total details on it, but anyway.
We won't be there because we'll be in New Orleans.
New Orleans? No.
We're going with his parents and possibly brother and grandparents for they always get together 4th of July, so that we're just doing New Orleans this year.
No problem. Little kiddos are allowed to go too, but if y'all need to stay home, that's okay too.
No, it's not.
That's not take baby.
So that's what's going on there. So getting into this week's discussion, we're going to talk a little bit about safety procedures. And this is something that, as small group leaders, you need to be very aware of. As a pastor, I have to be very aware of this. We look back to the days when we grew up, and we think about maybe some of our child care situations back in the day, and most of us today do exactly that. We just laugh. What was the child? Anybody? What was your nursery situation in your church when you were growing up?
Sitting next to my bed, I moved, I got the phone.
Sat next. I remember.
When I was a teenager, because my dad was a pastor, my sisters and I usually lived in the nursery. And I'm talking, we were teenagers.
Y'all were the teenagers, and y'all were in charge of the nursery.
Every once in a while, yeah. Or my mom just had to do it. She just had to not do the platform on Sunday, or it was like
Okay, anybody else? Was there any training for that?
Dude, I got the don't kill a kid.
Don't kill a kid.
I was a pastor's kid, you know, just like, just don't kill them, don't let them
Yeah.
hurt.
Anybody else?
For small groups, my brother and I were in charge of taking care of kids. He's taking off the bug gun horse and shooting guns, bows and arrows, and sticking
Yeah.
rabbits.
See, that's what we're trying to avoid right there. And we don't want any of the kids that grow up in our small groups to be like, yeah, when my parents were small groups, we used to go outside and we used to shoot each other with BB guns. And we used to, yeah, we don't want that. And so we need to talk about some things, but really the more serious side of our safety procedures is the fact that churches are a real target for people who have predatory tendencies for sexual abuse and things like that. And so we have to have a plan in place from top to bottom, A to Z, that we know everybody who hosts a small group, who works in the church, understands a few basic principles that we need to do. And so we need to understand abusers come from all social and economic and racial strata. A lot of times the psychological profile suggests that sexual abusers relate better to children than to other adults. There's one of the other big things is if something happens in a church or even in a small group, the negative publicity and the legal ramifications for the church can be catastrophic. One incident can absolutely shut a church down and put people in jail too. And so that's something that with some very basic things, we can make sure those things don't happen. And so we want to make sure that that we have some things in place. It talks here about the financial consequences and the legal consequences. And there are some, when we have people in the church, just so you know, most of you I think already know this, but in the church, anybody who volunteers has a background check done on them. And I think everybody here has had a background check. You're in good shape. As a small group leader, we have to make sure every small group leader has had a background check. And when somebody applies to serve in a certain area, we do due diligence. We have everybody fill out an application. We run the background check. We want to make sure that physical contact with kids is limited. Okay? So in small groups, we don't want to see any adults wrestling with kids, nothing physical. Unless it's your kid, then that's kind of like, okay. But there shouldn't be anybody wrestling with someone else's kid. There should be no one-on-one time with any other kid. Anywhere that there's a kid, if there should be an adult, but there should be two adults. Okay? And so what we want to avoid in a small group situation is saying, hey, as parents, we're going to be in the living room talking, and you kids, y'all go play in the room by yourselves. Okay, that's a dangerous situation. Because all it takes is one kid to repeat something he heard at school, or to, relive something he watched on TV, or whatever the case is, and that creates a bad situation. There was a church that we were a part of had small groups for a period of time, and something happened in one of the small groups between two of the kids. I don't know exactly what it was, but I do know it put a screeching halt to the small group program in that church. And so we want to make sure, God has called us. This is a vital part of this church. We can't afford to stop this part of the ministry, because this is really where the discipleship is going to take place. This is where people are really going to grow And so we have to make sure that we have a plan for our kids. So it can be, for instance, on Wednesdays, we've had I've been doing the spiritual gifting class back in that back room, okay? And we have one or two parents who have kids who come with them. And so what I do is I'll get my iPad and I will go to YouTube and I will pull up VeggieTales, the full episodes. And that full episode is 50 minutes long. And so they're watching VeggieTales. Or they could be playing a game or something like that, you know, somewhere there in the room, or, you know, if you've got a living room, kitchen type setup. Or if you are talking about a subject that is, hey, this is something you really don't want kids over here or something like that, then you need to make sure that the kids, you have 2 adults with the kids. And if it's, everybody can set it up their own way. There are some small groups who will have families, and you might have 7 or 8 kids at your house, or 10 or 15 kids, who knows. And so and that's not going to happen in every small group, but there may be a couple. And in that case, what you might do is you'll put together a plan as parents. Say, hey, you know, $5 a family, and, you know, get a couple of babysitters, you know, or do we want to take turns watching the kids, or what do we want to do here? But sending the kids off to play by themselves is not an option. Okay? I need everybody to hear that and understand that crystal clear. Sending the kids off to play by themselves is not an option. And sending the kids off to play with just one adult is not an option. We have to have 2 adults. If something happens and the insurance or the legal system comes and asks us, hey, did you have a plan in place? We say, yeah. You know, everywhere there's kids, there's supposed to be 2 adults within eyeshot and earshot. And they say, was that the case in this situation? And we say, no, it wasn't the case. Man, we're in a hurt, you know. So this is just very simple and practical info. Non-related. That's right. So you don't want me and Amy to be babysitting the kids from a small group, you know, because if one of the kids acts up and I take my belt off and, you know, or tell them something, you know, that I shouldn't, you know, and Amy's trying to cover for me because I'm her husband, and if I lose my job, yeah, that's a conflict of interest situation. So you want it to be 2 unrelated adults.
I don't think they can testify either.
Huh?
I don't think they can testify.
No, not in Texas.
Yeah. So that's why we got to be on our guard. Just stuff we have to talk about and we have to cover. And so just other practical stuff when you're with other adults, you know, guy and girl hugs. Let's try to keep it to a side hug. You know, we don't need no big front squeezes or anything like that, just for practical reasons. Also, if you ever see someone who gets, get caught in a situation, you go to, or someone goes to get water out of the refrigerator, and the refrigerator's way across the room, and then somebody of the opposite sex corners them over there, and they're talking about something and yada yada, and you just kind of like see it, just go be a third wheel, just hey, can I get water too, and just hey, what's going on? That's what we got to do, okay? Because for the protection of either or, either the guy who gets trapped by a lady or a lady who gets trapped by a guy, in either situation, they would appreciate you coming over there. And if they don't, too bad. And so activities should be done in open rooms, not in a private office. No one should be alone behind closed doors or isolated with a member of the opposite sex or with a minor. This includes giving car rides or engaging in isolated conversations away from the crowd at a church event or a small group. Okay? There should be 2 adults not married supervising children who have attended volunteer training and completed a background check. Periodically, inspect, and this is for church situations, but this applies to your house too. Inspect classrooms, offices, work areas, and other areas where children and adults are together. Check bathrooms, closets, and other areas where abuse might occur. So if you might be having a discussion and you notice 2 kids are gone. It's like, well, we better, let's stop right now. Since somebody's going to get those kids back in, or an adult and a kid or whatever.
In that situation, should it be 2 adults?
2 adults. Good catch, Micah. Brownie points.
Go and stop.
Pay attention to adults who spend considerable off-duty time with the same child or children, and so just practical stuff. If we can keep these things, if we can keep these, adhere to these things, then the risk of some type of sexual abuse with either a child or adult or some type of accusation being made goes way, way down. Because all it takes is an accusation. If someone just makes an accusation, we're about $50,000 just to defend it and dispel it, whether it's true or not. That's not a road we want to go down. And then I want to talk about alcohol in our small groups. Okay, this is something that I need to make very clear for our small groups. Alcohol cannot be a part of our small groups. Okay, for a few reasons, and I want to clarify. Drinking alcohol is not a sin. Jesus drank alcohol. Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine. Okay? I tell my kids it was grape juice one day. I'll change that story and it will